episode 12 with my really great friend Craig Bignall and his lovely wife Suzanne. They have a new group called Over the Moon, and they're fantastic. I really enjoying them, and they're growing and growing and getting better and better. And really, it's a great story, you know, two, as you would say, backup musicians who got together and they got married, and now they decided to put their own group together and putting themselves in the forefront instead of being in the background. And it's a great discussion on how they got to that and what that's all about. And I've known Craig forever, and I consider him one of my best friends. And we were in Medicine Hat on a day off on the Frank Mills tour, and they were performing in town that night. So we went and checked that out, and it was fantastic. So I hope you enjoy it. This is episode number 12, and here it goes. We have this lovely sound. There's an off button on that.
It doesn't shut off.
No,
yeah,
it doesn't
nice.
shut off. All right, we're here where are we? Medicine Hat.
Yep.
With Mr. Craig Bignall. Nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
And your lovely wife, Suzanne, is here as well.
Hello.
She doesn't have a microphone close at the moment, but we'll get on to that in a little bit. Anyways, it was kind of cool last night. I'm on tour with Frank Mills and got into town on the night off. And Over the Moon was playing. So we went to see you guys. It was awesome.
Yep.
I loved it. And I've seen you 2 or 3 times now, and that was definitely the best I've ever seen you. It was really, really, really good.
Yeah, it was fun.
I loved it. So we go back a long ways. Do you remember when we first met? I'm trying to remember.
Cedar Tree.
Was it Cedar Tree? Yeah.
Studio working on somebody's record. I don't know who.
Yeah.
Maybe Boogie Lady.
Yeah. Well, I gotta do a podcast with Boogie Lady. That's an inside joke for about 6 people if you're listening.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I just found I had a hard drive and I was going through it and I found it was a little folder that said Boogie Lady. It's like, oh, I found it again.
Nice.
Anyways, for those listening, this was a session I did at Cedar Tree years ago with this particular lady who played bass and sang interestingly. Mm-hmm. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah.
But it's made its rounds to a lot of people, that particular. Actually, you know what? There was somebody in Nashville years ago. I'm trying to remember who it was. And that came up, and I said I recorded that session. So you recorded Boogie Lady?
Yeah.
It's this random person. So I know this particular album has gone around to a lot of people, but anyways, no one knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we met a long time ago. Craig is a fantastic drummer, but not only a great drummer, but plays banjo and acoustic. What else do you play?
Fallopian tuba.
Yeah, that's an important one.
Yeah.
Get a lot of call for that?
Yeah. Not so much anymore.
No. So you grew up in Kitchener?
Yep.
Yeah. Born in Kitchener?
Yep.
Yeah. And how many brothers and sisters? I know you have a few, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Where did you sit in the lineup?
Second last.
Second last.
Yep.
Tim was the last?
Yep.
Yeah.
In every way.
Yeah. I figured that was enough after
joking,
that. Yeah. Obviously, because Tim's going to listen to this.
Yeah.
And so when did you start playing drums? What got you interested in that?
I think I was like 8 or 9 when I really started getting interested in it. I had a friend who played bagpipes, and we used to camp up in Southampton, Ontario, and he used to play his bagpipes around the camp, and he had a set of drumsticks, and he started teaching me some of those Scottish 6/8 grooves, you know, the bagpipe drumming, and I wanted to do that like crazy, but there wasn't a bagpipe band in Kitchener, so instead I joined a drum corps, Flying Dutchman, and then the Dutch Boy Cadets, and that's how I started playing drums.
Yeah, and you guys went all over the place doing that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Competitions.
Was who else was Ray Pahornik in that? No.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And my brother Tim.
Yeah. So what got you from that into, where'd you go after that? What was your next drumming experience?
Well, then I got my parents got me a set of drums, and I started playing drum kit and started liking that. And then because the drum corps thing is really good for your technique and everything, but it doesn't teach you much about music. You play the same thing, exactly the same 9 songs or whatever for all year long, and next year you switch. So I started playing drum kit, and then I started to wanting to learn more about that, and then I started studying drum set lessons with Gary Tomlin in Kitchener, and that opened up a whole new world to me of drumming and percussion.
Yeah. Gary just passed away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He seemed to be, I don't think I ever met him, but he seemed to be very influential for a lot of people.
Yeah, he sure was. And he was a drum corps judge. He was a really beautiful person and really kind and caring, but when I was in drum corps competing, he was a judge, so he'd be out there in front of the drum line with his little clipboard, and his job was to, any little mistake, any little stick higher than your next guy beside you, he'd be marking down these demerit points. And he was like eagle eye, eagle ear. He'd hear everything, and we all thought he was so mean. It was like, oh no, who's the judge today? Oh, it's Gary Tomlin. Everybody would be like peeking. And but then after I started studying with him, he was so kind and caring and very knowledgeable, and he really pushed me on studying the like mallet instruments of vibes and all that, marimba, but I didn't want to, and I didn't even have one. And couldn't afford one. He gave me the key to his studio, and I could go there when he wasn't teaching and use his.
Oh, that's cool.
Not that it helped. Yeah. I didn't want to do it, but yeah. So
you went from there. What was your first band experience?
When I was like 14 or 15, I started playing in wedding bands and stuff with people obviously much older than me, and started to make really good money playing already, aside from all the groups that we were in high school and stuff, your own little projects. But for money, I started playing all that music, and my friends were all packing groceries at the grocery store, and I was out playing, making huge money for like a 15-year-old, and it really taught me how to not respect money.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of really good things, like Steve Martin would say, a fur sink. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, yeah. So, and that's and I just progressed from there.
So yeah, the wedding bands and dances and stuff. I mean, that was a big deal. There was a lot of gigs. Now that doesn't hardly even exist anymore.
Yeah, because DJs.
We always go. We've talked a lot on the podcast about younger kids now growing up and not really having any place to play, and when we were younger, we had abundance of places to perform. And you would, there'd be. I was playing with the family with dances when I was, I don't know what age. It was like 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just tons of them. And same thing, I was high school, every single weekend, everyone's going out and working or partying and going to a friend's house, and I was doing gigs.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably why we both never learned to dance.
I know. No, we would just watch everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And go, I will never do that in front of people ever again.
Yeah.
We have so many, I'm sure you do, we have so many stories of people walking by. There's one guy I remember years ago, we were playing, and as the night went on, this guy started to sweat more and more, and he'd sweat so much that he'd actually sweat his pants, right? So at one point he would dance, and it looked like he wet his pants, like literally.
Nice.
And you can imagine, we're all, I was probably 10, 11, 12, and you're watching this guy go by. And we all look at each other as they go by. We couldn't stop laughing constantly. But yeah, you'd see these people just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And you do the polka, and everyone would dance the polka ridiculously, and I was like, yeah,
I'm not going to do that.
I'm never going to do that.
No.
Ever.
Exactly.
So when did you get out of playing the dances? What was your kind of first kind of maybe touring, or would you want to say professional gig? Not that the dances weren't professional, but
I remember I was doing that, and I was teaching a lot and just subbing around. And then I met Rick Hutt, who and he started putting together this like house band for a little club in Kitchener down the Lancaster Hotel, and we were doing like Eagles and Poco and stuff. And he's the one who started teaching me to sing harmonies and learn all those. And we started, but it still wasn't really that professional, although it was really good music. But we just played there, and I learned a lot from that. And then from there, I guess the first really touring band that I played with was Marie Bottrell.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first, and she won Female Vocalist of the Year that year, and we toured with that, and that was the first time I toured. And it wasn't really soft seat theaters; it was more clubs right across. So again, it was playing every night, and it was really good for you, not so much for money, but
yeah. You got really good. So do you remember who all was in that band?
Andrew Affleck,
yeah.
Mr. Drew, and a guy named Steve Hawkinson, who was a young guitar player, but he was smart enough to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
So he lives in Vancouver now. And Wendy Davis, if you remember Wendy.
Yeah.
She's out west too. And I think that was it, just us.
So what did the Wendy play?
She strummed acoustic and sang.
Yeah.
And then I think we opened for some of her shows too with Wendy singing.
Right. Yeah.
Wendy was a great singer.
Yeah, I did a bunch of sessions at Cedar Tree with her singing backups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was really great.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did you do that with Marie? Do you remember?
I think it was just 2 tours.
Yeah.
From an Eastern tour and a Western tour. That was the first time I was ever away from home. It was quite an eye-opener. And then the first real theater tour I did was with Frank Mills.
Oh, yeah.
I remember because Tinty Moffat, Rambo, or what was that?
Leonard
Rambo, was managing Frank, and Tinty was working for him, and she asked if I'd like to go play with Frank Mills, and I went, yeah, sure. And then I remember the first time I played with Frank in a theater, I was so nervous. I could almost just hold my hand above the snare drum and do a roll with one hand. I was shaking so bad. And I remember Frank a couple of years later from playing with him, he said, yeah, I remember when you first played with me, you were sitting there and you were just shaking, and he goes, now I can't keep you awake.
So yeah, it must have been pretty neat to see him last night at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The captain. Yeah, it was great to see him.
So you worked with Frank for about 12 years?
I think so.
Yeah.
On and off. He always had just a couple tours a year.
Yeah. Usually a Christmas tour, right?
And then one in the summer or spring or something.
Yeah. So I imagine with Rick, you started doing some studio work at Cedar Tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably was a different thing altogether, right?
It's amazing what that teaches you.
Yeah.
And doing studio work on what not to play.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when you grew up, what type of music? Obviously, you got into country music quite a bit. And various other things. But what you grew up listening to?
I never really listened to a whole lot of rock. Some like Chicago and Chicago, like the Lighthouse and stuff. But I listened to big band. I love big band and jazz and stuff, which is still a big passion for me. You don't get to play it that often, but that's what I really liked. And then I heard the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, if you remember them, and that whole rural kind of banjo-y thing. Just I went, man, I love this stuff, because it was so rural to me. It sounded so organic, and I said, I want to learn that. Drumming wise, it was really easy, but I just fell in love with that music and their vocals and everything. So I decided I was buying drum cases one day, and I had some money left over, and since I was such a fool with money, as I previously stated. I thought, I have some money. What else is in here? What do I need? And I saw a banjo hanging there. And I went, look at this, a banjo. And I had heard dueling banjos because everyone had, and I went, I think I can play this. And I've never played any stringed instrument. And so I bought this banjo, and then I remember going home, and I thought, I better get some like bluegrass music. And I didn't even know what that was at the time. So I went to a record store and said, do you have any bluegrass? And they said, let me look. And they looked, and then they said, the only thing we have is this called Newgrass Revival.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, okay, that must be okay. So I remember I got it, and I put it was a tape, and I put it in my car. And the first song was Great Balls of Fire. John Cowan was singing it. And I went, whoa, this is bluegrass? And like, I thought that was bluegrass. And it killed me. It was so good.
Yeah.
And so I was hooked on banjo ever since then.
It's kind of interesting because you look at a lot of drummers. Not many drummers play other instruments. You find a little bit, like maybe a guitar. But you don't see a lot of drummers playing stringed or other instruments. And do you feel that it helps you as a drummer that you play the other instruments?
I think playing the other instruments for sure helps you as a drummer. It makes you more musical. It makes when you're playing drums, it makes it more about the song and the music, not about look at me, I'm hip and I can do this. When I was working with, I told you, with Rick there down at the Lancaster, that was when I first started playing banjo a little bit, and there was a drummer in the band, so I was standing on front of the stage playing my banjo, trying to sing a song, and the guy in the back, honestly, he's bashing away. It sounded like he was, I always say, building a house back there, and it's like, what does that have to do with anything? So it really taught me to be more musical in that sense. And then I started to listen to that music and get a feel for it, and with my brushes and everything, to subtly change the feel between verses and chorus and stuff, so subtly, but it makes it feel so good. And the other musicians don't know what you're doing. All they know is that it feels really good.
Yeah.
To do these little different things to make it interesting. And nobody in the audience would ever notice. No drummer would come up to say, hey man, you're really good. Like, how'd you do that? But they feel it, you know what I mean? And
well, I've played with you enough times to know that, and done enough studio work. You are probably the most musical drummer I know, because the cool thing about playing with you just don't get your part and stick with it. You can tell your mind's always working to figure out, how can I play to make this feel better, or what can I do? And you'll listen to what everyone else is playing, you'll listen to the vocals, and you'll make your drum part work with what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Instead of, I think there's so many drummers will be like, this is what I'm playing.
Yeah.
And everybody, I'm the driver of this bus.
Yeah.
And everyone else is a passenger. Where you are kind of looking at everybody else and trying to figure out what they're doing, and you make your part work with everybody else, which is kind of unique compared to a lot of drummers I've worked with.
Yeah, and that's probably from playing the other instruments.
Yeah.
And listening to that stuff, for sure.
Yeah, and it's neat because it isn't big changes. They're just
subtle,
very subtle things around what everyone else is playing, because everyone has a certain, you kind of know what the person's going to play. Everyone's got a little bit of a style, and you figure it out what everyone's style is, and you kind of work your drumming around even guitar parts and solos and vocals, and it's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever had anyone else that kind of got that the way you did, which is pretty neat. So speaking of Newgrass Revival, I know you ended up playing with John Cowan for a while. How did that come about?
I played on some recording songwriter demos for John Gully, if you remember. John, and John had written a song for John Cowan, and John was interested in getting some more tunes, and so Gully sent some more songs down to Cowan, and then Cowan heard me playing on them, and he goes, man, I like to feel this guy, and so he all of a sudden he called and said, do you want to come down and play drums with me down to Nashville with Cowan? And it was like, yeah, I guess I would. Yeah, sure. I couldn't believe I was going down to meet one of my heroes, let alone play with him.
Yeah.
So that's how that all came about. And then when I was down there the first night, we got there a day early, and John Cowan was talking about John Hartford, who was one of my biggest heroes, and all of Newgrass loved John Hartford.
Yeah.
And so John Cowan and I stayed up almost all night playing and singing John Hartford tunes, and I was just playing guitar. And since then, we've been like best friends. And he didn't even know I played banjo at that time. I played with him for about a year and didn't even tell him that I played banjo.
Oh, yeah.
And one day I said, hey, I play banjo. And he goes, no. And I said, yeah, I do. And he goes, well, next time bring it down. And I remember we were rehearsing at this horse ranch, and we went into the stables, and I brought my banjo with me, and John and Jeff Autry, Jeff, the guitar player, and me. He goes, what do you want to play? And I said, doesn't matter. And he goes, how about, I can't remember what tune it was. And he goes, just kick it off. And I said, okay. And I kicked it off. And they just laughed out loud. They couldn't believe a drummer from Canada could come down there to Nashville and play banjo with them. They just laughed hysterically. They couldn't believe it. So then I ended up starting to play banjo with them too. When I wasn't drumming. And a lot of times we used to back up Vassar Clemens. And so there's times I was sitting on stage playing banjo with Vassar Clemens and John Cowan, Jeff Autry, sometimes Sam Bush even. And I just couldn't believe when I was where I was,
Yeah. I remember when you were doing that, and you could tell like you were like in cloud nine the whole time.
Unreal.
So I know there was a chance probably for you to, I know they were kind of pressuring you to move to Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And what made you decide not to do that?
They even had a place for me and everything.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to live in Nashville. I love Canada, so I was like, nah, I'll just keep coming down every weekend.
Yeah, no, you would drive
Yeah.
down from Kitchener, basically, or that area, to Nashville, and I remember you doing that, and you just drive back in your truck.
Yeah.
And that was tough. I mean, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I flew a lot of times, but a lot of times I would drive. And I remember I tell people this story. My record was driving all the way from Owen Sound all the way to Nashville, timing it so that I'd get there right in the morning so we could rehearse. We'd rehearse all day, and then we'd play a show, and then I drove home after.
Yeah.
Which is insane now, but I did it.
A lot of people drive home after the gig, but your drive was 12 hours.
Yeah. 13. Yeah.
That's crazy. So is there any part of you that regrets not going and sticking with that?
It got so that it was a real pain to, even just flying took me just as long, going through immigration and everything and that hassle. It was a real pain to do it. And a lot of times I'd fly to Nashville and then have to get in the bus or whatever with them and drive really far to the show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I figured out how much I was making per hour, it was like 3 cents up to 13 cents an hour of time that you were gone. But every time when we got on stage and started playing, I went, it's so worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just loved it. And
But it's a lot of crap to get to that hour.
To get there, yeah.
Of an hour and 90 minutes of greatness.
Yeah. And then, and I would have, who knows, I might have still been doing it, except I smashed my leg really bad and I couldn't play for almost half a year. So, and then.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then I just.
Because you were playing with us at the time.
Yeah. And then I just, I said, John, I can't come for a while. So they went on without me, but they never replaced me. They didn't have a drummer then after that.
Wow.
And John still calls every year. Every year he goes, let's set up some dates and we want you to come down. But now with immigration, it's so hard to get a visa for a couple shows. It's so expensive. It's
not worth it by the time you pay that.
Can't do
the
it.
fees and you got to know a few months out.
And he's busy with the Doobie Brothers now anyways, but still.
Yeah, that must have been a blast. I remember when you were going through that and playing that, and it was pretty cool.
Unreal. met all my heroes at those festivals, like Telluride and everything.
Well, it's great that you got to do it. And obviously, I know that world's it's not a huge money-making world. There's not, it's different when you're in town and you could play a lot. But having to travel and do all that just wears on you.
Mm-hmm.
But awesome experience.
Yeah.
Like really, really, really awesome.
Yeah.
So where'd you go from after that? You were, obviously you did the Cowan thing and you kind of came back and where did that kind of leave you at that point?
At that point, I was still playing with Susan Aglukark, and I was still her music director. So I was busy with those two things. And then after John, then I came back and pretty much focused on working with Susan. And she had some really busy times. And then it kind of, she was doing more keynote speaker things than actually performing live. So I had some more time. And then I think I was working with Beverly Mahood for a while. With her music and
you when you're playing with Susan, you really developed a cool style that everyone talked about because you played a stand-up kit, like a really kind of put together. I wouldn't say it's a cocktail kit because you had so much going on besides that, but you had everyone talked about this guy playing standing up and
all the weird drums.
Yeah.
Well, Susan's music was basically a dialogue between her vocals and percussion, drums and percussion, and the bass was really important too. So I had to I remember at first we tried to use some trigger pads and stuff and a sampler and a sequencer, and it melted one show right just before it went on, and it was like, I'll never do this again.
Yeah.
So I had to try to recreate all that stuff live. So I had all these native drums and frame drums and stuff all mounted around this stand-up kit. I had to stand so I could reach them all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I got a sore leg standing on one leg all the time, but it was really cool and I loved it.
Yeah. So eventually, I know you played with a bunch of other people. You played with Amy. Did you do
Amy Sky
for a while? And,
yep.
And still busy doing a lot of studio work and eventually you got to the place where you are now.
Yeah.
Which is
where I'm most happy.
Yes, which is kind of a really cool story. I know you kind of tell the story in your show, but I think it would be neat to kind of share how you met Suzanne. I think it's
like the Auto Trader part, or
yeah, the Auto Trader. No,
yeah.
The Kijiji singles part of Kijiji.
Well, I had a
Farmers what's that?
Farmers Almanac,
or that one, the one they advertised on farmersomething.com where it's like a dating site for farmers.
Maybe that was it. Anyways, I lived up in Grey County, just south of Owen Sound, and I had my studio set up there, and I used to do a lot of recording drums, percussion, and banjo for people who'd send me their projects to work on. And this band that Suzanne was part of sent me an album project to do, and so I just did it like anything, But I do remember Sue's voice because it was so beautiful, but also, like I mentioned last night on stage, the one song that she sang her voice was, for some reason, they had it way up too high. It was blowing my head. And if you're playing along with something, you have to really try to concentrate and hear where the time is, especially when you're overdubbing drums, which is always hard at the best of times.
Yeah, I've done enough sessions with you where I know, because you've always said, Darren, could you take the vocal out of my mix? But
yeah.
like completely out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And hers was like wailing in there. So I certainly knew what she sounded like by the end of that. Anyways, so I recorded their whole record and sent it off to them. And then a few months later, I was in Calgary rehearsing with Tom Jackson for his Huron Carol tour. And her group, the Traveling Mabels, her group at the time, the Traveling Mabels, they were going to have the CD release party for the record I had played on. So they contacted me and said, "Hey, you're in town. Would you want to play?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And so the release came, and that's when I met Suzanne, and I thought she was pretty special, you know, especially when her voice was turned down. And but, you know, and that was it. That's when I met her. But then after all our rehearsals, Tom Jackson was having a dinner party at his house. And traditionally, he invites a lot of Calgary's music people, artists and stuff. You know, they all come. And after supper, he always has in the round, like swap the guitar, sing tunes in a circle. And I was just sitting there, and I remember the guitar came to me, and I was fairly new to playing guitar then, and it was like, and he wanted me to sing a song. He wanted me to sing the song Paradise because he likes that song, and I sang it for him once. So I'm singing that John Prine tune, and I was really afraid because there's all these other artists, and most of them are very much overconfident, and I was singing this song. And like I said last night, my voice sounded like buckwheat. It was like my vibrato. And Suzanne was there, and she felt sorry for me, and she got her bass and came and sat beside me and sang harmonies with me. And instantly, I sounded way better, and instantly my voice stopped shaking. And that was it for me. I fell in love with her totally.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but she didn't like me, but that's...
It took a while.
Yeah, it took 3 days or something.
Yeah. Had to add the charm in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Had to get some more jokes in there to seal the deal.
Yeah.
So let's get Suzanne in here for a second. Squeeze on in here. For those who are listening, we're just we're at the my hotel and in Medicine Hat, and I got my little traveling rig, so I only have one extra microphone, so we're going to share this for a minute. And there you are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's better on the mic than in person.
You sound so bassy in here.
So welcome. Nice to
thanks.
have you here. So let's go back with you just a little bit, because I don't know much of your history from when you got started, but I heard last night, are you originally from Quebec? Is that correct? Or did you live in Quebec, or native roots from Quebec? Or
No.
am I totally wrong?
Totally wrong.
Okay. I didn't hear
my
that.
family, I guess my dad's side's probably back in the family tree.
Yeah.
But I grew up in BC.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
in the North Okanagan.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I was born
that's
in
rough.
Armstrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a nice place to grow up.
Yeah, get a little closer to the
Oh,
mic if
sorry.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know it's not the ideal setup. It's hard to carry like boom microphone stands when you're flying.
Yeah.
So what got you, I know you're a fantastic bass player, great singer. What did you start doing first? Were you a musician first, a singer first, or
Both kind of, because when I was, we had a family band, just like you guys.
Yeah.
So my brother he plays piano and sings, and so he was taking piano lessons. My mom was an acoustic player and sings. She still does. And my dad plays accordion, fiddle, all the old time fiddle stuff, you know. So there was a bass there. I guess I didn't really choose the bass. It kind of like was there, and I had to play something.
Yeah.
So I got to play bass. So yeah, that's how I started. And it just started in a family band. So I think it was 12 when we did our first gig.
Yeah.
And then we were together for 15 years or something like that, and 3-part harmony, and we played all the legions and stuff like that in BC, did kind of like the circuit. So yeah, the weekends through high school were in the legions and stuff with my family.
So
she
staying
learned
out of
how to
trouble.
dance.
Yeah, learn how to dance
No.
in the Legion.
A little from watching.
Yeah, what is it with musicians that they don't never dance? Like hardly any of them want to dance. I guess it's from us watching everyone else as I go back to that. So, you're playing bass with the family, and that's pretty. I mean, obviously, I know what that's all about. I think learning harmonies and all that stuff that's a great way of doing it when you're in a family band. I think that's one of the things that you gain most from singing with family members is you learn how to sing harmonies really well.
Yeah.
And because you don't always get that when you're just young and playing with other kids, because they just don't figure out what harmonies are. You'd be lucky if you do, but there's something about singing with a family, you figure that stuff out because that's part of what singing with a family is. So that's a neat asset to kind of learn.
Yeah, and it's amazing that when you're going on to other musical things and then you miss the family harmony, like kind of took it for granted, I would say, when I was in the family band, and then you go to other bands and it's like, oh, it's not really the same. The blend isn't there. Or
it
whatever.
Isn't it different? I know.
Yeah.
I've had the same thing. It's like, and no one ever works on it. You just, you run the chorus once and it's all right. And I'm thinking, oh, that was totally wrong. Like there was nobody singing. Or else, the thing I always got was you go out and you practice your part and then you go out and do the show and the other guy takes your part. And I always had that happen. All of a sudden you go to sing and all of a sudden, hey, that's my part.
Exactly.
What am I going to do now? And then you're the one that looks like the idiot because now you have to jump and try to find the other part. But not enough people work on harmonies. I think it's brushed over so quickly. And, the bands that have the harmonies together, they really stand out. That's an important deal.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously the family band kind of moved on to, what did you do after that? Were you...
after the family band, we'd moved out to Alberta because music in BC was kind of dying, or in North Okanagan, there wasn't much music happening. So we all moved to Alberta and started playing for a while, like 5 years. We were playing out here, and then we ended up disbanding or whatever, and then I joined some just sort of like touring road bar bands kind of thing for a while. So a couple of years of that. So that was interesting. That was a different adventure.
Yeah, especially for a female.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
traveling with all the guys in the band van or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then I got a call. Well, the drummer from Gord Bamford's band came out and saw me play, and their bass player was leaving, so they asked if I wanted to join the Gord Bamford band. So I did that for 3 years. And that was fun, like a different level of touring, of course, in buses and opening in big shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. So when did the Traveling Maybells come about?
About the third year into Gord's. So that was 2008 or so.
Yeah.
I was friends with Lana Flown, and we went out to the CCMAs, and my mom was there, and we got up and sang some sort of open mic thing, and then we had that sort of family blend. Of course, like my mom and I sang together lots, but Lana's voice blended well with ours, and was like, this is like family harmonies, and so we started singing more together, and we thought we should do an album, and Mom and Lana had written lots of songs at that point, so we put an album together, and then it just started making more sense to focus on the Traveling Mabels and leave Gord's band. So then, so we started playing together, and that was, more acoustic music and theater shows, and it was fun. Yeah.
I haven't seen you guys live, but I saw a bunch of videos online. It seemed really great. Like you said, the harmonies were really great, and weirdly enough, because Lana's husband Keith, I used to send him a bunch of stuff. He's a great piano player, so he played tracks do some tracks for me, and it's funny how you become kind of friends, or you get working with somebody, and then that ends up being related to another friend of yours, and it's just kind of, it's such a small community. It's amazing how everyone ends up just kind of becoming friends or working together, or someone ends up working with a friend so quickly. It's even you could be on the other side of the country, and that works. It's kind of a neat community that way. And you can really, I think nowadays in Canada, where I think it's really the whole country, right? Where before, if you were an Ontario band, or you were a East Coast band, or you're a West Coast band, where now you can see a band and drummers from Halifax and the bass players from Edmonton and whatever, and it's a kind of really spread across the whole country, which is neat. Because I think at one time, there might be a little bit of this here, but there certainly was a divide. I thought, you didn't mix, Ontario bands didn't mix with West Coast bands, and East Coast had their own thing, and there seemed to be, that's where you stuck with that. But now, I don't know if it's because of the internet and social media and whatever, all that, it's kind of brought the whole country, it's now smaller, so everyone gets to know each other better. There's not that divide of musicians. Not that anyone didn't like each other, but it just seemed that no one ever think of hiring a West Coast drummer or bass player or whatever it would be. But now there's a lot of that, which is really cool. Yeah. And it should be like that. It's one big community. So
yeah.
So you met Craig, obviously, that night. So tell me on your story, when that guitar was being passed around and it got to Craig, what was your thought when that happened? What was?
Well, I could tell he was nervous, and I knew he wasn't like the usual, like an artist that goes out and, like he's the drummer, and he seemed nervous.
Yeah.
So I thought, I should just go and get my bass and help him out or whatever, just by playing. I think I may have sang a little, but.
You did.
Yeah.
Right in my ear.
Yeah. Right in your ear.
So, so that's kind of, it seems like in your story, that was kind of like the pivot moment for you guys, right? Where there was this kind of connection that happened. It seemed more on Craig's end.
At the time.
At the particular time.
Yeah.
Well, we did a couple, Tom's did a fire relief show, a Slave Lake fire relief show, right? Yeah, and the Mabels were on it, and Craig was the drummer, percussionist, banjo, utility guy on it. So there was about 3 or 4 days where we had rehearsals, and so we were all together, and so I kind of got to know Craig a bit, and I just wanted to bug him. He seems sweet. I don't know. I just wanted to pick on him.
Craig has a charm about him. He's very charming, and but he is very likable, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone that hadn't said great things about like Craig. You always hear that person or that person, but Craig's always like, he's kind of like everybody's friend. Everyone loves hanging around Craig because he just brings a certain vibe to any gig or any place where he's at. Usually a depressing vibe. No.
My car vibe.
Pontiac vibe.
So you guys hit everything off out of the park. You guys got married, and you decided to start making music together. So that's a really cool thing. Now, seeing you guys last night perform, and like I said a couple times I have seen before, it just seems like you've been playing together for 30 years, right? That's what it feels like. Did it feel like that right from the beginning when you just started, trying to put stuff together? Or
when we first started, like I said, I was never really on stage before without my drums all in front of me, and Sue as well. He usually never spoke on stage too much, just sang and played bass. So when we did our first show together as Over the Moon, we were the focus of attention, which was really nerve-wracking for both of us. I remember, and we had to speak between songs and talk to the people. I was so nervous that my fingers, like I could hardly feel my banjo strings. It was like I couldn't tell which string my fingers were on. It was like sheer terror, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was we just did a coffee shop gig in our hometown with a bunch of our friends and stuff like that. And my mom and her husband came and like kind of opened the show. So it was like Yeah, you think it would be less nerve-wracking with your friends and family there, but made it more scary, kind of.
And Sue goes, I don't want to do this. I can't do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It makes you think different. Do you think differently about, if you go back and look at everyone you played with before, do you look at them differently knowing now
that they have to do that?
They have to do that. It's you know, it's a different thing when you have to entertain and be that front person, and I think it's easy as a musician to kind of look at a person, maybe not realize how difficult that position is until you're in it. And the people who do it really well, how great of a skill that is.
Yeah.
You know? And I look at the people, you know, I've worked with. I look at like someone like Jim Witter. Obviously, he's so good at Jason McCoy. He's fantastic. You know, he just carries the show. I mean, he's just able just to kind of do it and play guitar and do the solos and entertain and keep the band together and all that stuff. And it's a tough job. I mean, and I think when you're a backing musician, you get that time in between songs to really prepare for the next song, or you could be thinking about the next song while you're playing that one, and your mindset's on something different, or you're not thinking about okay, what am I going to say after this song, or you don't have a chance to think about what's coming up next as often as you do when you're just kind of sitting back doing your thing. So yeah, it's a change for sure, since you know you're doing that for so long, and now to be the front folks, it's you know, certainly probably was different for you for sure.
It was beyond terrifying. and on top of that, we're pretty shy people to begin with, you know, like a lot of singers we work with, when it's time to check their mic, they'll walk up to the mic and go woo, like with nothing. They're so proud of what they do, and or friends that go into a music store like Long McQuaid and pick up a guitar and turn the amp up, you know. I would never do that. You know what I mean? Even now, like even when the sound check drums, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, that's good. You know, like I don't want to play loud. You know what I mean? It's just the way we are, both of us. So on top of it, even more so.
So you ended up putting in your first CD together. So what was that experience like? You did a lot of did you write all the songs on it, or there was some, I'm trying to remember
60%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what was that like? I know you did a lot of it yourself, right?
At home, pretty much everything.
And I remember getting that, and I was blown away, because I know I've done a lot of studio work with you, and I know you weren't that computer savvy and that recording savvy. You did some stuff at home, and didn't you get some? You got some of the. Did you use that Multu box you got off of me?
That you gave me, for that first one.
And so I remember you telling me that, and I got the project, and I was like, "Holy crap, this sounds really good." It was like, wow. I mean, I couldn't believe. Like, you would honestly think that you went into a real pro studio and got it done, and
that's what everybody says. Yeah.
So that must feel really good. That must be like a great accomplishment for you both.
Yeah, it felt pretty amazing. Like I said, we didn't even know what we were doing. I went and rented a preamp, and I didn't even know how to plug it in or turn it on. I didn't know what it was for. I said, everyone says you need a preamp, so I went and rented one. Yeah. And I just played with it until it sounded good, and went, I think this sounds good, and that's how we did it.
Well, so. I mean, half the time that's what it is. You just turn things until it sounds good. But obviously you have really great ears. You always have really great ears, so I'm sure both of you really do. I mean, that's half the battle, is knowing if you're on the right spot of the microphone, or if something's not sounding right, you have the ears to make, you know, whatever correct, even though you don't even realize what you're doing, you're making those corrections.
Right.
So, yeah. So you finished up the first CD, and I know you guys have been you've gone down to the Folk Alliance and the States and showcased there. What was that like the first time you did your own show? You've gone with other artists there before. I know you talked about that last night. What was it like doing your first showcase?
It was really good. And we weren't that, by that time, we weren't that nervous. And I guess we felt as if we spent that much money to go all the way to Kansas City to showcase, we were going to try to do good. And we were starting to feel proud about what we did, you know what I mean? So it worked really good for us. We made some really good contacts. And there was a lady there from a magazine from New York City called Elmore Magazine. And our CD wasn't finished the first time we went, but she really liked us. She stopped us in the hall and said, "I was listening to you guys. You really have something." And then she goes, "Do you have a CD?" And I said, "I'm sorry, it's not finished yet." And it was a couple months away. And she said, "Send it to me when you do." And I sent it to her, and she loved it. And she gives a lot of people bad reviews, and she loved ours, you know. And that's a big magazine in New York. And we also met a contact from over in the UK, and we sent our CD over to him, and he actually distributed it for us to some of the biggest acoustic country roots magazines over there, and BBC Radio, a lot of radio stations and everything, and it's pretty much changed our life over there now.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Mm-hmm. So you're working on a new CD now. Mm-hmm. So what's that process like? Are you still recording a lot of it at home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I send parts out like to friends that will do a part and send it back to me. But other than that, we've recorded everything at home, and we've made some friends at the National Music Center in Calgary. So we've gone in there to sing a couple of our vocals so far there, and we'll probably go again, I think maybe this week, to do a few more. And they have some of the best gear in the world, vintage gear. Like this last song, the one you heard, I sang my part into Neil Young's old U47 mic, and you sang into a U67, right? Mm-hmm.
That's I've been wanting to check that place out.
It's awesome.
So do you find the approach of the CD any different from the first one? Are you thinking about things differently when you do this one, or? I know we talked about a little bit last night when you've got a crunch to get the next one done. It's a lot different than when you're just kind of a little bit more laid back and working on the first one and developing and seeing where it goes. Now you kind of have a sound, you have a thing you've put together. Now you've got to put a whole new project together. What's that like?
At first it felt pretty relaxed. I thought, hey, we're just going to do our next CD, and we already had some kind of neat songs we were excited to try, and we know what we're doing a bit more, and we set a release date for February, but then all of a sudden we got some tours booked, and now we feel the crunch. So we've been working really. It's hard to write under pressure, you know what I mean, for us, and we don't want to do a ton of cover songs. We're trying to write our own, so we're feeling the pressure this time to get them written and recorded for sure.
The cool thing about your original songs, when you go out to see an artist and say, hey, we've got some new songs to play for you, and it's like, oh crap. I just want to hear the songs I know, or that type of thing, right? But with you guys, I like the originals more than I like the covers, right? There's something that's more you about them, right? And they're really great songs. You're great writers, and the arrangements are really great. And some of them have great humor in it. That's great about what I like about your act too, that it's serious but not all at the same time. You're serious about what you do, but there's this fun, relaxed kind of joking vibe to your show, and I think that is so important because it just relaxes everybody right away. Like within the first couple songs, you feel like, oh, this is going to be fun, and then you get blown away by this great music. So obviously now writing new songs, like you said, you feel the pressure of what you have done in the first one, and obviously you've got a February. Is that a locked-in thing, or why did you end up picking February?
We had to make a decision about it, and we'd really like to have our new record out by Folk Alliance in February, so that's why. I mean, we can change it if we want, but we are really going for February.
Yeah.
Yeah, we feel the pressure about everybody is going to be watching for the next record. We've already got our people on board in the UK. They're all pumped. Yeah. Maverick Magazine there, which is the biggest one there, said they'll do a complete complete article on us this time. We'll be on the cover as soon as it comes out, and it's like that's scary if it's going to suck. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if it's like, yeah, nice swing and a miss on the second one. I'll be back being a drummer.
Well, you sent me you sent me a song a couple weeks ago, and if the album ends up sounding like that, it's going to be really, really great. It was one of those things too where you sent it to me, and I said, okay, I got to listen to this, and I was in my car, and I just like hit it. I think I listened to it 4 times in a row, and it was like, holy crap, that's really good. And it's the same thing. It's like sonically it sounds really great too. I mean, the recording is really great, and it's like I said to you earlier, you've captured that thing that draws you into a song, right? When you listen to some great artists where you just can't help but listen to the lyrics. And because I'm not a big lyric guy, I never have been, because I think sometimes when you're a musician, you're always listening to the musical parts of the song, and the lyric comes later. And I want to hear what the drummer's playing. I want to hear what the bass player's playing. I want to hear, all those things. You learn I know all the guitar licks before I know what the lyrics are. And when I get drawn into a song, it has to be really strong for me to get, soaked into that. And I think that's kind of just the honesty. I think I've talked before about seeing Winona a few years ago at this Christmas concert in Vegas. And I was there and went to see it, and it was one of those nights where it's so magical. I think every song was just like, wow, it was everything was great. Playing was great, but besides that, she just drew you in, and it was part of it because she was so honest in between songs. She told these stories about her life and the battles that she's been going through, and it was just like, holy smokes. But that whole openness and the whole trueness about the way she approached the show and her music, it just brought another element, made you connect with everything way better. And that's what I get with you guys, is because you're just kind of yourselves, and you got this comedy flair, but then there's this real kind of more deep side that underlies everything. It really, really works well. So I think, so far a really great start to the second CD. I'm pretty excited about it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to do something on it. Give me a song to mix or something.
Yeah, I should.
I wish we were closer, because I'd love to be part of it. Somehow,
we'll have to send you something.
Yeah, maybe third album you have to come to Ontario, and I'll convince you.
That's what we should do.
Yeah,
come and record there.
Just kind of hang out for a while and do something fun. Mm-hmm. So, what do you see now? I was going to ask you, how'd you come up with your name? Where did that come from?
That's how we felt about each other.
Yeah.
I was over the moon.
Somebody called us Under the Moon. No, it's Over the Moon.
Yeah.
So there's no really sit down and we got to think of a name. It just kind of happened naturally.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
We can't remember now that you heard us play that song, our song Over the Moon, last night. I honestly can't remember if we wrote that song first or if we came up with a name of our duo first.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
I think maybe we wrote the song first.
Yeah, and it seemed to work as a good,
Yeah. I thought that might be a good name for us or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. Works good. I like the artwork and everything. Works really great. So where do you see, the next year or two for you guys? What do you have do you have the 5-year plan or the 2-year plan, or are you just kind of just going and see what happens?
Well, we're excited to release our new record, like in February, and then in May we have an 18-day tour of China coming up. Only 8 shows, but it'll take the 18 days to do them. I guess they're in different provinces all over China, even Mongolia.
Wow!
So I'm going to go to a grill there.
Yes.
So where's the grill? And the venues are huge. Like we've Googled them. Some are brand new, huge, like 4,000 seaters. Look amazing, and it's going to be soon me standing there in front of 4,000 Asian people with a banjo.
No, we bought a screen and stuff like that. We're thinking of putting a video element into it.
Yeah. Because you have to look at that differently, because you got a language barrier, right? So, a lot of your show is the talking in between and the stories
I know.
and all that stuff. So you'll have to really think on how to approach, because you won't know until the first show. I'm sure there will be some English speaking people there, but there's probably a majority not.
They'll often have a translator for you right on stage, which is kind of, how do you know he's going to translate your humor?
Yeah, and it's not always, it's, for you, Craig, it's your delivery more than anything else that, it's kind of that real dry but yeah, it's going to be exciting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on the Huron Carol tour this Christmas.
Yep.
So that takes you across the country. I know I looked at the schedule and I was like, I'm not going to be home when you're in Ontario. I think I home like 2 days later or something like that.
That's how it always is. That's why last night was so special.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really neat. I can't remember how that came about, but I was, waiting for people to come in at the theater, and I was online looking at my schedule, and then I saw something about you guys, and I looked, and I was like, I wonder if you can be playing anywhere close to, we had a couple of days off, so I thought maybe there'd be a spot to see you, and it's like, wow, we're going to be in the same city on the day off. So
unreal.
So that worked really well. Well, I'm excited for you guys. I think this venture for you is just perfect, and I'm sure you feel lucky that this all came together. And when I was watching you last night, it was one of those things where it's like I felt just like super proud, right? From just sat there. It's like, I'm really so proud of these guys, and you can tell you work really hard, and it just fits, and it seems just right. And it's nice to see a couple musicians, if you want to just put it that way, that's kind of been performing for everybody else, now come out front and be really strong and work really well. So I'm sure it's really exciting for the both of you. But we wish you great success. We'll have to do this maybe again. We'll do next year. Maybe we can do like a little play a couple cuts from the new project and talk about the new album and all that stuff, and kind of keep every once in a while keep caught up with what's going on with your career, and it's pretty exciting. And I'm really glad that the heater turned off for the last 10 minutes of the podcast. Now I can hear everything. Yeah. That's perfect. Here in the this is my first on the road podcast in a hotel room, so that's pretty cool. And you're playing tonight in Medicine Hat for a show, and up against head to head with Frank Mills.
With Mr. Frank.
That's got to probably weird too. You're playing in the same town as some of you performed with for 11 or 12 years, and you're doing your own thing, and that's really cool. But yeah, I know Frank was really excited seeing the show last night. He was blown away, and Brian Edwards was there, and all of us, Brenda, and we all talked about it on the way back, and we're just like, wow. And I think it's cool, like I mentioned earlier, for someone that you played drums for that long, to see you come out front and do your thing. I think he thought that was really incredible. So pretty neat. Well, wish you all the luck. Thanks for coming and spending a bit of time. And it was great to see you. I wish you guys lived in Ontario, but I see you guys more often. But
might be.
Yeah.
in a few
You never
years
know.
or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still our plan.
Yeah. Well, congratulations and good luck with the next tour. And how do people find you guys on the Facebook and all that stuff? It's is it Over the Moon?
The website's overthemoonband.com.
Yeah.
And then the Facebook is
The Facebook.
Over the Moon Roots, or Acoustic Roots Duo.
Or Over the Moon Music, I think.
One of the two.
I don't
You'll
know.
find it. Just
Yeah,
search
it's-
Over the Moon and then
Yeah.
see what
We gotta
comes up.
We got to search ourselves.
There's a couple of Over the Moons, but around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Over the Moon Music is our Facebook.
Yeah, you guys should figure that out.
That's why it was such a huge hit.
And you on Instagram as well, or
Yep.
yeah, some random name on that as well.
Yep.
Search for Over the Moon, and
I
You'll
don't know.
find
I
it.
where
think
it
it's
is
Over the
too.
Moon Music too.
I'll paste it on the show notes so you can find it. I'll do the research for you.
Yeah, go on our website and then you can find everything.
Yeah, everything.
else.
All the links are on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, and have a great show tonight, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks for
bye-bye.
having us, Darren.
Thanks.